Welcome to Lesson 8, Calculations. In this lesson, we're going to work with percentages from a mathematical point of view and see how that translates into Python. So let's get to it. So let's have a scenario where we're going to try to calculate our final grade. And our final grade would be the average of our, let's say, assignments, and then a percentage of our final grade. So let's just, for the sake of writing it, let's say that our final grade, oops, wrong language, hashtag. Our final grade will be equal to, let's say, 40% of our final plus 6% of the average of our assignments. All right, so if that's our scenario, first thing we have to do is we have to get our average, the average of the assignments. So let's go and ask the user for 3 assignments. So we'll say assignment 1. We'll do int input enter assignment 1, and oops, wrong key. And let's copy and paste that 2 more times so we get 3 assignments. And don't forget to modify everything. And let's put a little colon space just to make it nicer looking when we enter it in. And now we could create the average. So I'm not going to get too sophisticated. I'm going to just create a variable called average. And if we recall from a previous video lesson, just plain knowledge, that an average is us adding up the 3 values first and then dividing by 3. Okay? And let's go ahead and simply print this information out just to make sure that it's okay. So we'll say average of assignments is average. And we'll test this out before we go any further. All right, so we'll keep it simple, say 100, 90, 80, average is 90. Good. So now we're ready to do kind of our final calculation. So we're going to say final grade is equal to. So percentages of a value implies multiplication, but the percentage itself is a division. So there's a couple things you could do. For instance, let's tackle the 60% of the average of the assignments. So if you're familiar with how to convert percentages to assignment, you know you could write it like this, 0.6. But let's say you're not comfortable with converting percentages into decimals. What you can do, you can write 60 divided by 100, because that's what the word percent signifies, that it's out of 100. So leave it up to you. I'm going to go this route for the quiz average, and if it looks cleaner for you, you could also put in parentheses, not necessary. Order of operations will be okay. In that it's going to do the 60 divided by 100 first. And then we're going to multiply by the average. This is what's meant by doing 60% of the average. And now we have to add it to our 40%, which I'm going to write like this, a little bit more than what we need. You don't need the leading 0. You don't need the trailing 0 either, but it makes it look closer to our comment up top. So 40% of our, oops, we forgot to ask the user for their final grade. We'll just call it QAM for the sake of calling it something. Quarterly Assessment Mastery. Wow, it's been a while. enter QAM. And that way this becomes 40% of the QAM. And let's go ahead and print it out using string interpolation, which many of you still are holding on to the string concatenation. Hopefully you see that string interpolation is a lot cleaner. There's no conversion to string. And when you get to more sophisticated output, like you're going to be challenged in a bonus for this activity, yeah, you're going to want to use string interpolation. It's going to be a lot cleaner than using a bunch of plus signs all over the place to concatenate the output. But anyway, let's stick to the video. Final grade is final grade. So let's go ahead and run it. And we'll say 100. We're going to try to keep this simple so we kind of figure it out in our own heads. All right, so the average is of 100. So 60% of 100 is 60. All right. So now let's say a cram grade. You kind of like really didn't do too well on it. And there you go. Okay. So doing calculations in Python is no different than doing calculations in math. You just have to understand what the underlying math is. The idea that a percent is something out of 100, and when you take a percent of a value, that implies multiplication. You have to put the multiplication sign between it. So let's go back to our overview. So in Lesson 8, we reviewed calculations, specifically how to use percentages in Python. Thank you.